All right, guys, I'll let you guys take it away and introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit more about yourselves and your experience.
Cool. Thank you, Brittany, for having us. We're very excited to teach and be able to chat with everyone. My name is Elena Legro. I'm a school psychologist and behavior analyst. I spent about 10 years in public schools and doing in-home for emotional regulation and things like that for kids with special needs mostly. And then I've spent the last 5 years in a private practice. But I think my biggest credentials are that I'm a mom of 2 kids. I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old at TCS in 3rd grade and 1st grade. So we are walking through the trenches in all of these things with you. My amazing, wonderful, beautiful friend here is the most lovely, wonderful mom as well, and has walked a lot of these things. And she is, I'm so glad that she is presenting with me as a voice who has been through these trenches and walks through these trenches with families. I'm sorry, I introduced you for you.
That's all right. Cool. That's awesome. My name is Tara Conselman, and I have 2 children. And just like you, I think that my biggest calling card is the fact that I am a parent. But my children are 33. I actually have 3 children. I adopted one in adulthood, actually. So my children are 33 and 35 because both daughters are 33. And my son has autism. So because of him and his autism and raising him during an age of no internet, I had to claw and scratch my way through information and discovering what works. Brittany, I really appreciate you nodding your head so that we know someone's listening, and because talking on Zoom is sometimes flat, you don't see everybody. But I became a behavior analyst later in life to help other parents and to provide tools that I needed and used when I was a parent. And as an evolution for both of us, both Elena and I, anxiety is an evolution of our expertise. We started out behaviorally. Anxiety is behavioral, but the word anxiety isn't behavioral. The word anxiety is really a word that describes what we feel and think inside of us. But behaviorally, anxiety has a lot of behavioral manifestations, especially in children. And we learned new technology that's behavior analytic called acceptance and commitment therapy. And that is where a lot of our information comes from. And I have now become an anxiety expert as well. So, yeah.
So great. So let me see. Oh, good. It did work. Okay. So anxiety in the brain. I have a little book. Hang on. That I like to share with kids when I work with them. So this little book, I just want to be able to see. So this little book is called the Brain Building Book. And so these images that you see are from this Brain Building Book. So when I work with kids, I talk to them about how your brain has different parts and each part has a different job. And so there are parts of your brain that are responsible for attention and decision making and what you see and what you hear and all of this. But in the middle of your brain, there's a part of your brain called the amygdala. And this part of your brain is responsible for emotions and anxiety, essentially. It's not always harmful. Anxiety is a natural response to stress. We sometimes call it worry. And it's always on. So unlike other parts of your brain, it's always on and scanning the environment to keep you safe. So for example, it's the part of your brain that's going to tell you get out of there when there's a bear. But it can be helpful to for if I'm feeling anxious about a test, it can get me up and going and make me do the things. So anxiety is a very helpful feeling, but there are times where the alarm can sound a little too loud or too hard, and our kids their brains are not fully developed yet, and so they need us to kind of help them to regulate these kinds of things. Anxiety in your brain. So this part of the brain here that's blinking, that's where your amygdala is. Amygdala is Greek for almond. So it's 2 little almond shaped parts of your brain that are responsible for, again, like emotions. So think of it as like your brain's security guard. It's always on duty, scanning the environment for anything that might be a threat or might be exciting. When it spots something, it sends an instant alert to the rest of the brain saying, pay attention. This is important. Just like a vigilant security guard, it helps your brain be on high alert for both potential dangers and exciting moments. It's the emotional watchtower. So if you've ever heard of or seen any of Dr. Dan Siegel's work, he talks about the hand model of the brain. And so what this is, he kind of breaks it down like if you take your hand, so humor me, take your hand if you're in this workshop and put it in front of you, and then tuck your thumb into the middle of your palm, and then close your fingers over your thumb. So this is kind of like a hand model of your brain. So the part of your wrist right here, this is your brain stem. These are your core brain functions. So things like, heart rate, breathing, survival instincts. And then that middle part where you tucked your thumb in, this is your limbic system. This is your emotional brain. So this is where your amygdala is, but this is where you process all of those emotions and form memories. And then the cortex is your thinking brain. So this is the part of your brain that, again, helps control, regulate those emotions. So reasoning, problem solving, decision making, all of those take place in your thinking brain. When we feel really intense emotions, good or bad, we tend to flip our lid.
Ooh, I like that analogy. That's great.
Yeah, isn't that cool? And so essentially, like, your thinking brain is not on. And so again, our kids' brains develop, so they develop back to front. The last part of your brain to develop is that thinking brain. And it's somewhere around your 20s, mid-20s, that your frontal lobe is fully developed. And so in the meantime, as adults, that's where we come in to kind of help our kids be their frontal lobe.
I love that. That's really great. You are the frontal lobe for your children.
Yes, you're the executive. You're teaching them how to do, and you're modeling how to do these kinds of things. So anxiety, the prevalence of anxiety is on the rise. So there are a number of reasons for this. So if we think about, our childhood, right? Or even like our parents' childhood, there's a lot of things that are different now for us that, for our kids rather, that, were not the same for us or for our parents. And so things like school pressure. So there's a lot of focus on academic pressure to do well. There's a lot of focus on standardized tests. One of the things that I love about TCS, and I'm sure you are too, I'm TCS's biggest cheerleader. I love our school so much. I don't feel like my kids feel worried about testing. They want to do well, but they don't feel, we're not having these talks about like it being like, you're going to be retained if you don't do well and things like that. But there is a lot of focus in the world right now on performance and assessments and things like that. And then right, in our, I don't know how to get rid of this red dot, but technology and social media, this was not around when I was a kid. It definitely was not around when our parents were kids. But there's so much different that our kids have to navigate that we did
With
not.
that, there's way more information available to children. So information that children actually have way more to worry about. They understand, or at least not really understand, they have access to the scope and breadth of all the things that we did not have as children.
Yes.
When you grow up in a sheltered, no digital environment, you only know your immediate surroundings. Our children today know so much more.
And there's so much too, with like, obviously, like, older kids, all the FOMO of like, I follow my friend and they're all doing the thing and I'm not doing the thing. Why didn't I get invited to the thing? But not just that, even like some harmless things like, like a pretty filter, right? Like looking at yourself and being like, oh, I wish my nose was a little this or that or whatever. But all of these things contribute to an increased incidence of anxiety today. Family dynamics, so changes in family structures. So this could be someone no longer part of the family, or, not living at home, I should say, or someone new living at home, new baby. Not always a bad thing, but changes in family structures can cause anxiety because it changes the dynamic of everything at home. And again, so we are our kids' frontal lobe. So, if we are helping play a role in teaching and things like that, and we're less available ourselves because of some of these changes, that can be a factor for sure. And then sleep and screen time. So we know that, like, with the blue light and looking at screens, it reduces melatonin production in the brain before sleep. So 30 minutes before bedtime, shutting off the screens would be helpful. The reason for that is that less sleep can
lead to more anxiety.
Thank you. Yeah. What is the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
And then so there are some individuals who are a little more prone to anxiety. So individuals with learning differences, we don't have to think too hard. It's not too much of a stretch to figure out why this would be. If I have learning differences or learning disabilities and I learn differently than other kids, I might be worried that I can't do the thing, whatever it is, or that I'm going to look foolish in class, or, whatever it is. With this kind of thing, I like to say, don't get furious, get curious.
Love that saying. Write that down if you're taking notes.
So the thing is that this is someone's whole job, right? To figure out why something is hard. And so when parents call me, I like to say that I'm kind of like a brain detective. So I like to figure out why, like, what's going on and why. Why is it so tricky? But then more importantly, like, what do we do with that? What do we do now that we know what we know? Is there a learning difference? Is there a learning disability? Whatever it is, exploring it rather than getting mad at it is helpful for kids. The other thing, giftedness. I've seen this a lot at my office, that gifted kids are a little more prone to anxiety, but it seems to be that the neurodivergence, like their brains being a little bit different, they're a little more wired for anxiety. So things like perfectionism, obviously, like high expectations for myself, high expectations to succeed, analyzing and analyzing things deeply, having deep emotions, overthinking, worrying, feeling different from peers. If I am really bright, I might feel different from my peers, struggle to fit in, or I might be a little socially isolated. So those kinds of things for gifted kids. A history of trauma or bullying. So if there's a history of trauma or bullying, our brains can be more hypervigilant. There's a hyperarousal, persistent state of hyperarousal leads to increased anxiety. And then also,
everyone with language. So if you have language, if you're able to use words, you will be prone to anxiety. And that means all of us, right? And that's because anxiety only exists in, I think we're ready for the next slide. Anxiety only exists.
Oh, I think it's over.
Oh no, well, we'll get to that. Okay. We'll wait for the punchline.
Okay. All right. So, and then, so how can anxiety impact school? So we talked a little bit about how when you're anxious, it shuts down your frontal lobe. So your frontal lobe is how you concentrate. That's how you make decisions, you focus. And so if your thinking brain is shut off, it's hard to do the thing. It's hard to perform in school. It's hard to take the test. I can't think. If I feel like the bear is chasing me, I'm not able to think clearly. This can lead to procrastination because I just can't regulate myself to get myself to think clearly. Test anxiety. Kids with anxiety, kids who experience anxiety sometimes report physical symptoms. Things like my tummy hurts, or I feel really weird. I feel like I'm having these unreal feelings. My hands are sweaty. Physical symptoms like that are important to pay attention to. And then with task refusal, you might see some task refusal. So teachers who may be connecting in later, if you're seeing some task refusal, it could be a symptom of anxiety, which again, also looking at the learning piece of things. Is it because they can't do, and so then they're anxious about it, and so they won't do, and those kinds of things. So just really quickly, I'm going to walk us through a grounding exercise. So this is just 30 seconds of being still. And so what grounding is it's practicing mindfulness, just being still. Grounding is known to reduce cortisol levels. Cortisol is your stress hormone in your brain that's released by your brain. And it brings back to the present. So kind of like Tara was talking about with language, we worry about past, the present, the future, it's not the present, sorry. We worry about the past, what our past failures are. We worry about the future. Oh my goodness, I'm going to fail. And it just kind of brings us back to that present moment to bring a sense of stability and control. So if you would, we'll start with a breathing exercise. So get comfortable in your chair. Kind of just, sit comfortably in a seated position. Place your feet flat on the floor. Rest your hands on your lap. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Take some deep breaths. Deep breath in through your nose, feeling your chest and abdomen expand. Hold your breath for a moment. Exhale slowly. Okay, repeat again. Breathe in through your nose. Hold it for a moment. Breathe it out. Focus on the sensation of your breath. And while you're breathing, engage your senses. Notice the weight of your body on the chair, the texture of the floor beneath your feet, the temperature of the room. Wiggle your toes and fingers, bringing awareness to your body. Okay, engage your 5 senses, and what do you see? Take a moment and observe some things around you, small things in your surroundings. What are some things that you can hear? I hear the clock in our room, some traffic. What do you smell? Take note of anything that you smell or taste, any lingering taste in your mouth. What do you feel? Acknowledge sensations on your skin. Okay, take one last deep breath in. Open your eyes if they were closed. Take a moment to reflect on how you feel. These grounding exercises can reduce cortisol and again, the stress hormones. Practicing these things with our kids. Sometimes I do this at night with my kids. We take some deep breaths and we say, what do you hear? I hear, dad's music in the background or whatever it is. So we do these kinds of things just to, again, like calm down, reduce anxiety, take focus off some of the things that we were worried about.
So I'm going to interject something here because you said to do it at night or someplace separate. So some of you may have already found out that if you, or while a child is having an emotional episode or is riding the emotional wave, you start to try to do these things with them and they resist. They say, no, I don't want to. I don't want to. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And that's partially because you're giving them directions, which we're going to give that. So it's better for you to do it yourself. So you might say, I'm going to take 30 seconds to breathe so I can listen to you. And then you do, I'm going to smell, I'm going to think, I'm going to see, I'm going to, and you're just modeling that. I'm doing it for me, but humans co-breathe, which I think was in another slide. We co-breathe. So if I slow down my breathing, then your child, or you slow down your breathing, then your child's going to be able to follow you, but they cannot probably process your direction giving. So telling them to do that in the moment is hard to get cooperation. But if you do it another time, like as a practice, then they know that's there. They've practiced it all the time. They know how that feels. So on the moment right before their test, they're going to take that deep breath. They're going to notice something because they've been practicing it at night at bedtime. But so practicing that with your child is great, but make sure you do it not in the moment, but
Yes.
other safe places at times.
Yes, I've tried this when
they were upset and
it
didn't go right.
No, it definitely landed flat. So Tara has some really wonderful, beautiful things to share about what to do when. So her experience, again, like as a coach and counselor, and she works with kids and adults through these things. So all the strategies I've learned so much even just putting this workshop together with you. I've used some of our strategies and it's been super helpful. So I will let you
Okay. So as I started to say before, anxiety exists only in your thoughts. And that is a really like sort of almost a new thing. Anxiety does not exist in the here and now. It doesn't exist in your physical sensations when you're noticing your body, which is why mindfulness exercises can be so powerful to help reduce the symptoms of anxiety. Anxiety exists in the thoughts we have about the past. What did I do wrong? Ruminating on mistake I made, or the thing that I said, or exists in the future. What's going to happen? What will go wrong? What could happen? So one of the reasons it's so important to get present in your physical senses is you can actually literally bring down the temperature and the intensity of the feelings that you're experiencing when you're having all of those anxious thoughts. The human mind is so amazing that as we just think a thing, we can feel as if it's happening right now. If we think hard about a lemon, taking it out of the refrigerator, cutting it open, sniffing it, the juice and citrus, our mouths will salivate and our cheeks might even hurt from the just thinking, even though there's no lemon in the room. And that's what happens to our bodies when we experience anxious thoughts about the past or the future. We feel like they're actually happening right now. So first, this is what we said before, calm yourself. Do your own getting calm moment, grounding yourself. I often do the feeling of feeling my feet on the ground. I take a deep breath. For me, green is a soothing color. So I usually look for some sort of plant or some sort of green and just acknowledge it and look at it intensely. I feel myself grounded when I look at green. That's something that I do. But it's really important that we get calm, because when we add our own anxiety to the basket, we increase anxiety for everyone. We kind of get into a vortex. So if we can get calm, we're the adult and we can regulate, our children will be able to regulate sooner. So the anxiety in children often looks like what happens if I make a mistake. That future working, I'm going to make a mistake. I know I'm going to make a mistake. I make a lot of mistakes. So I'm going to make another mistake. Everyone's going to think I'm dumb. These are actual statements that I have from children whom I've worked with anxiety. Everyone will think I'm stupid. I must be dumb because I don't know it. I can't do it because I can't do it. So we're in this now vortex of task refusal. I can't, so I'm not. And it is our job as adults to kind of get present with our kids to understand what is their mind telling them. So in actual strategies, what can an adult do when our children are engaging in an anxious, intensive, emotional response? First of all, I love this picture so much because we see that the adult is getting down at the child's level, looking at them empathetically, looking at them as if they're there completely for them. They're not standing over them, giving directions. They're kneeling down right at their level. And then reflective listening. So if they're saying, I just don't want to go to the school, you can say, oh, it looks like you are feeling afraid or feeling sad or feeling worried. It looks like you are feeling big, big, big. And you can then pause. Pregnant pauses between your words is very helpful. You don't like, and then let them fill in the blank. You're worried that, and let them fill in the blank. You're afraid it's, and let them fill in the blank. The biggest thing for us to avoid, and unfortunately it's what we naturally do, is to avoid questions. What is it? What's you're afraid of? What's going to happen? Why are you thinking like that? What makes you think that's going to happen? Why do you think you can't do it? Those kinds of questions increase both of your anxiety. And kids can't answer them. I don't know what I'm afraid of. I don't know why I think I can't do it. They cannot answer. And a question only increases that anxiety. Avoid refuting. This is the one that we all do, but you've even experienced it as an adult. If someone says, don't be sad, you're immediately like, but I'm sad. Don't refute. Don't negate. No, don't negate. Avoid. No, you're not. You're smart. No, you can do it. Oh, it's a small problem. No, it's not a big deal. Those kinds of things also increase anxiety. Now they're not heard. We don't get them. They have it. They're experiencing this emotion or experience or thought privately. Nobody else understands when we refute, because refuting doesn't actually make that thought go away, and they can't go, "Oh, you're right. I shouldn't be afraid." That didn't happen. Or, "Oh, you're right. I shouldn't be sad." That doesn't happen, right? So when we need to avoid refuting and just reflect, oh, I see you're really, really worried about failing. Oh, you don't like making mistakes. I get it. So we're empathizing. Avoid direction giving. That's where we talked about before. Avoid saying, take a deep breath, or use your calming tools, or you know what to do. You can get calm. You've got this. Come on. Those are all direction giving, and that will increase the anxious feelings and evolve into anger, because you'll then get the sort of follow-up loop, the back whip of anger. Don't, I'm not, I won't, refusals, right? I have read an article, and there's a really great book, and I didn't put this in your notes. I'm not sure it is. I think it is in the notes at the end, actually. It's called Parenting Your Anxious Child with Mindfulness and Acceptance. It's in the back. Okay, good. It's in your resources. There's a study that they quote in there. They asked the question, what mom behavior calmed babies down the fastest? Because they were wondering, is there a single behavior that a mom can engage in that will help calm children? And they decided to observe moms who had brought their 6-month-olds in for vaccinations, because that's a predictable time the child will cry. So we have an encapsulated, anticipated, unpleasant experience. The child cries and the parent is present and going to nurture them. And so they observed a whole huge set of moms. I can't remember how many, like 50 moms. And they discovered something incredible, that there is a single behavior that moms can engage in that increased the calming of their child, that increased their child's ability to recover from the emotion. And that was an empathetic expression. So every mom cuddled and hugged. Every mom did but the moms who looked at their child and went, "Oh, ouch, that hurt, baby," even though they're 6 months old, the child felt the empathy that they had been seen. And then the mom goes, "I know, baby, it's going to be okay." So moms accepted or reflected the pain, and then she provided the security by, "It's going to be okay. So now I've been seen and heard, and I am secure." And it works for everybody, but especially your children. When they are anxious, if you can feel their pain for a minute, grimace or share their expression of pain for just a half second, that they know you got them, you heard them.
I love that so much.
So as parents, we're conditioned. I'm just going to address our compelling need to stop the crying, our compelling need to stop the swirl of anxiety. We are conditioned by our maker to need to stop our children from crying. It's an urge that we have because it keeps our children alive in the first 2 years of life, when they don't have language to tell us what they need. They cry, we respond. We just do it because it's instinct. Humans don't have a lot of instincts, but that's one of them. It's an instinct to console your child and to stop the crying. The problem is when our children grow older and gain language, and as they grow older, we actually need to let them solve the problem. And their emotional state is not the problem. But it feels like it's the problem because we have this sort of primal need to calm it. We think that's the evidence that our children aren't happy and that we should take action. But in reality, once your children have language, it is the evidence that you need to be present with your child, empathetic, console, and allow them to experience their emotion and then come up with solutions themselves. So I just wanted to let you understand the reason you're driven to solve this problem is because you're driven.
Biological.
It's biological. It's instinct. Okay, so what's a parent to do? Now, here's a long list of things, and I want to go through each one of them. Because all of them will help. You don't need to do all of them at the same time. These are just tools you can use. So once you've listened and you've empathized, we do need to get the ball rolling, right? We still need to get them to school. We still need to get them to take the test. We still need to get to the next thing. So what we can do to help increase that, to make that transition easier from the expression and experience of the emotional state is some of these steps. So you can move in the direction of the task or the next thing while you're reflecting or empathizing. So let's say they're crying about not wanting to go to school and they're afraid about a test they have to take that they think they might fail. So you can be doing, after you've gotten present with them, oh my goodness, this is really hard. It's so scary. I get it. We've reflected. I understand. Whoa, you're so afraid. Once we are doing that, then we can say, tell you what, walk with me and we'll continue talking about it. Here, hold the book and let's get going. Here's your backpack, but you're still empathetic and reflecting, but we're moving our bodies and our actions in the direction of the task or the thing that needs to happen. And that brings that to break the task or expectation into smaller bite-sized behaviors. So you can say, hold this, walk with me, carry this. Oh, look in here. You're doing something to just break that task down. Instead of we're going to school, we're breaking the little steps down into what does it take to go to school. If they're sitting at a homework page on the table and they're saying, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's too hard. You can say, after you've done your reflecting, and oh my gosh, it does feel so hard. Sometimes homework is way more than we can handle. You write your name and then we'll sit here for a minute. You just got them. Which color would you rather use? Would you like to use a red or a blue pencil? Let's do it in green today. It's just homework. So you can give them these little, and that will break the suction of the I can't and move us into action. And once we start taking action, we immediately begin to feel a bit better. Distraction is a great technique. We use it really great with our 2-year-olds, but you can continue to distract like, I heard a joke. There was this funny thing that happened today. Or what did you say the example of?
Let me show you this funny video.
Let me show you this funny video. You might say something silly about the whole thing. Yep, you're right. You're probably going to fail. You're probably never going to be able to, like, making it silly though, like it not real, but silly. And those behaviors, we're not trying to stop the feelings or the thoughts really in that we're just trying to reduce or lessen the intensity so that they can actually start to move on a bit. Because, and you can talk to your kids about this, not during the crisis, but in between, that emotions are like waves. And our thoughts even are like waves. They come and they go. And we can rest assured that we will not feel this way all the time. We're only going to feel this way for a little bit of time while the wave passes. So we can use some diffusion techniques, and diffusion techniques are really fun. Diffusion techniques are diffusing our stuckness to the thought pattern or to the intensity of what we're feeling. One of the ways we can do this is to ask silly questions like, where is your fear anyway? Is it in your big toe? Are you feeling your fear in your big toe? And then that's silly. No, oh, it's behind your ear. Your fear is behind your ear. Is that where it is? No, it's in my tummy. I feel sick. Oh, your fear is living in your tummy. So if you can do some talking about your fear as if it's sort of a separate thing, as if they are separate from the child, I like to use phrases like, fear showed up. Boy, fear has shown up big time now. What is your fear telling you? Your fear is telling you, so that the fear is not them. The emotion is not them. They are experiencing it. So when we talk about it kind of in the third person, then it decreases the intensity of it. You can even say things like, whoa, fear has shown up big time. I can feel it in the room. I think it's round. What do you think? Is it round? Is fear round?
It's shaped like a monster.
It's shaped like a monster. What color?
Purple.
Purple monster. Oh, fear monster. The fear monster is purple and it's here. So we're diffusing, but we're still we're still accepting and connecting with what they're experiencing. So one of the things we can do is teach your mind, just like Elena showed us earlier, where these thoughts and fears come from. I love this analogy so that we can actually say, uh-oh, you flipped your lid and we're all in this brain right now. And once they understand that they are separate from them and it's their mind doing their work, keeping them safe, functioning as it should, we can thank our minds. And I personally went through a really, really, really horrible experience last summer. Or I was attacked by a dog in a public place, and actually had my finger, what's the word?
You could just say it.
Cut off, bitten off for the most part. And the reason I tell the story is that you can imagine after I had everything fixed, I'm all good now. The fear that showed up was outer stratosphere. I experienced fear in places I'd never experienced fear before. And my body would react. I found myself the first time a dog barked wherever I was, I took off running. This happened 3 or 4 weeks till I realized what was happening, because I work, I do this work. So I started thanking my mind for keeping me safe. Once I recovered, I found myself hyperventilating behind a store kiosk, and I just started thanking my mind. Thank you, mind. Thank you, body, for trying to keep me safe. And the power of that diffusion was incredible. Every time I experienced that and thanked my mind, I recovered faster. And pretty soon I stopped having those great big responses. Don't have them anymore. I discovered the power of being grateful to our own minds and bodies for doing what they're supposed to do. Something else that's really great, so the last one on this page, is to talk to your child about the positive opposite. So always our fear shows us what we care about. So when we get to the space where we can actually recognize that, so we say, oh, you're afraid of failing. That means you want to do well. You are someone who wants to do their best. That's what your fear is telling you. You can do that with everything. Oh, you're afraid you're not going to catch the ball today at practice. Oh, that's because you want to be a great team player. You want to be an athlete. You want to perform well. That's what your mind is telling you. When we turn it to the positive opposites, we're less powerless. We become actually powerful. What do I need to do to increase my success potential? What do I need to do to get better at baseball? We know what we can do and we know what we care about, and our fears show us what we care about.
I love that. I love that like teaching your kid how their fears are separate from them. So like I said, I've been like learning from our own workshop and using some of these things. And so my son was crazy. We found out someone had a parasite. And so then he was convinced he had a parasite. He's 7. And so, after we talked through like the logic of it, like, where do you get a parasite? Anyway, he was still afraid. And so I told him, I want you to tell your body that was scary, but you're okay. You don't have a parasite. That was scary. And he said it to himself so gently and sweetly.
Oh,
it was like the sweetest thing. Yes. And he was like, and he said immediately, I feel better.
Yeah, it is really, if there's any magic, that's that gratitude and appreciation and self-compassion. There is serious magic in that. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Okay, so just to help diffuse from you guys, I'm going to read you a story. So let's see, we can take this off. I'm going to read you a story called The Rabbit Listened. And it kind of gives you the example of the posture we should take as parents. And even though in this story, it's not necessarily about anxiety, the behavior that the little guy's exhibiting in the story, let's move it this way.
Yeah, I know.
So I'll move over to here. Let's see. Okay. All right. Is just the same as the kind of behaviors we experience when our children experience anxiety. One day, Taylor decided to build something new, something wonderful, something special. something amazing. Taylor was so proud, but then out of nowhere, things came crashing down. The chicken was first to notice. Ooh. Cluck, cluck, cluck. What a shame. I'm so sorry this happened. Let's talk about it. But Taylor didn't feel like talking. So the chicken left. Next came the bear. Grrr, grrr, horrible. I bet you feel so angry. Let's shout about it. Grrr, grrr, grrr. But Taylor didn't feel like shouting, so the bear left. The elephant knew just what to do. Trumpa-da, I can fix this. We just need to remember exactly the way things were. But Taylor didn't feel like remembering. So the elephant also left. One by one they came. The hyena, hee hee, let's laugh about it. The ostrich, gulp, let's hide and pretend nothing happened. The kangaroo, what a mess, let's throw it all away. And the snake, shh, let's go down and knock someone else's over. But Taylor didn't feel like doing anything with anybody. So eventually they all left. And Taylor was alone. In the quiet, Taylor didn't even notice the rabbit. But it moved closer and closer until Taylor could feel its warm body. Together they sat in silence until Taylor said, "Please stay with me." The rabbit listened. The rabbit listened as Taylor talked. The rabbit listened as Taylor shouted. The rabbit listened as Taylor remembered and laughed. The rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to hide, to throw everything away, to ruin things for someone else. Through it all, the rabbit never left. And when the time was right, the rabbit listened to Taylor's plan to build again. I can't wait, Taylor said. It's going to be amazing. The end.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Share the screen again.
Sharing our screen again.
How did
I'm
it
going to
work?
show you the resources.
Sorry.
Your screen share is paused at the bottom. So
Tell me what to do.
the last slide is a resources slide, and I don't know how to get to it.
I know.
Here it is. Yep, there you go.
Wait.
Okay, technical difficulties.
Sorry.
There we go. Okay, we did it.
Okay. So one of the books, when my worries get too much, I love this. And I'm going to show it on this screen. It's a little workbook that you can get off Amazon. I think it's like $12. But it's a workbook that you can sit with your child. And just kind of, it talks about how your worries are like tomato trees. And so are you growing worries? And, when you water a tomato plant, you grow a tomato plant. And so you grow more worries, and it just kind of each little chapter has a little place where you can draw And it also talks about just different strategies that, that kids can use when they're, when they're feeling too worried. So like, for example, using logic and those kinds of things. So each chapter has a little, I'm sorry if I can, has a little place where the child can draw. Oh my goodness. Can I? But each chapter has a little lesson. And this is just such a cute, great little resource.
I recommend parents, when we do a workbook like that, that you take your children to someplace really cool, like maybe to, what's the Italian ice place?
Oh, Jeremiah.
Jeremiah's. So you go to Jeremiah's, get a Jeremiah's and do the workbook together. Or you go to Jeremiah's, do the workbook, and then get the icing after, or the ice cream after we do the book. But that way we're separate from our normal environment.
That's
it doesn't
brilliant.
feel like it's another task or more homework. You go someplace fun and do it. Sit at a park.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And then just some other resources. Isn't this the one raising your anxious child with mindfulness and acceptance?
Yeah, that's one we tested.
That's the one. And then Sissy Goff, she's raising worry-free girls, and then raising emotionally strong boys. Ted Zeff, the whole brain child, who has the hand model of the brain. And then Timothy Has a Worry.
Oh yeah, Timothy Has a Worry. Yes, by Tori King. That's a great. And it's the power of showing up. So those are some great resources. I think we have time for questions.
So I'm going to unshare this. We can share this, the PowerPoint with you so that you have these resources. So we listed a bunch of providers that TCS refers to, but that also like My Practice refers to. Obviously I've got Tara at the top. She's seeing clients starting in January. And then if you need a psychoed eval, I've got my contact information here. And then just some wonderful, beautiful counselors, again, that we refer to in the area. I'm going to take screen sharing off.
Matthew Pierce is
Wonderful. Thank you guys. That was super informative and helpful. I really appreciate it. So guys, if you have some questions, you can either put them in the chat and I will read them to our presenters, or you're more than welcome to, unmute yourself and share with us.
we covered it so well that nobody has any
I know everybody has some clarification on everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, Carly says that was wonderful. Thank you. Great info. And Sarah says no questions, but great job or great talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carly and Sarah.
I'll ask a question.
Yeah.
And I came on late, so I'm sorry if I may have
Hey, Angelina.
you may have covered this and I missed it. But I was just wondering, like, because the part that I heard was kind of like, when your kid is anxious is not the time to like teach them a new skill or how to deal with it. But assuming they're in a more calm state and they ask you, like, what can I do to deal with my anxiety? What are some things that are simple enough for them to learn? I have a almost 9-year-old, to help them in that moment, like learn a new way.
Yeah. So there's a number of things, and you can. The first one was teach them about the brain. So that's possibly one thing you missed, and one of the resources has that experience, but it's also in the diagram about how your hand functions as the brain, and this is your amygdala thinking area, and this is your thinking area, and this is your feeling area. And when you're feeling anxiety, you pop your lid, and so you're just feeling your feeling area. And then I would talk to them about how their feelings and emotions are like waves, so they don't stay there, so that they can know that one of the things I use with kids is, what do you do when you go to the ocean and you are experiencing waves? What are waves like? And which ways do you experience a wave? Like, do you ride it up and down? Do you let it crash through you? Do you dive in? And when you then compare that to emotions and fears and anxiety is like a wave. The waves come and we can ride it out It will pass. We can dive in and try to solve. We can let it hit us and fall crashing down. What do we want to do? And let them help. I want to ride it out. So among the things of ways to ride out your anxiety wave is to practice some of those diffusion techniques. You can say the fear over and over and over again. So you could say, I'm afraid I'm going to fail. 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 And say it both together till you're saying all nonsense words, and then all we're laughing in stitches. So then we show fear who's boss, because we just can laugh about it. We can also say, my fear is telling me that I'm going to fail, and that means I really want to pass. Thank you, mind, for showing me what I care about. That's another strategy you can do right there in the moment. Does that help?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And I like the wave thing. I like the idea of giving them choices of how to get through the wave.
Yes.
I love that. I think that's so good and important. Like, I feel like my kids, I mean, any human, but my kids just feel like they're gonna
Drown.
yes yes
Yeah, that they're going to be
and
engulfed.
just to know that it's going to be over soon.
Yeah.
And you'll be feeling fine in a minute.
Yeah. And you can take that metaphor even further. You can say that the world is like the ocean, and that we have problems and things that we have to do, and all the time, like it never stops. The water's always there, but sometimes it rises up to become really scary, and then it comes back down again.
We have another question here in our chat. Alexandra says, do you have any advice for when a child has anxiety when you're on a strict timeline? Example, your child doesn't want to go to school, but if you don't get in the car within the next 5 minutes, you're going to be late to work and school.
Yeah, so I would take your brief 30 seconds to 1 minute to get there on that level. It's going to be worth the time stand still for 30 seconds to a minute to just get right down there and look at them and connect and empathize and reflect, and then get up, start distracting. Okay, so I know that you're afraid. So since you're afraid, you help me carry this stuff, because we're going to let fear follow us like a puppy. Just you're now giving them little tasks like, here, you hold these things, come with me, or pick which color do you want to take, or which backpack do you want to take, or start making choices, hard, like forced choices that kind of moves them in the direction. Come and tell me all the things that you hate about school as we walk to the car.
I love that.
Let's make 5 things that we hate about school as we walk to the car. So we've connected, and now we're empathizing a little bit, but we're also having them play the game of diffusing while we're moving to the car.
All right, we've got another kind of follow-up question on that. Dawn is asking, can you apply that example of moving then to the car for a teen? Is there anything that you would do, I guess, differently for a teen in that situation?
Yes. So if it's happening regularly with your teen about not going, then we're going to need to have conversations that are not in the moment. One of the things I teach parents in behaviorally is that behavior happens in a pattern. So if your teen is regularly in a pattern, refusing to get in the car, and when we're not in the moment of refusing to get in the car, we have the conversation. So about what is expected, what's needed, and what the benefit of that needed thing is. What do they care about? We can talk to the teen too about how our fears, our feelings, our expressions of our emotions point us to what we care about. So what do you think your fear is pointing you to? What do you care about? Like, do you care about looking good or feeling good or presenting well or having friends, whatever it is? And so what are the fastest, easiest ways to move in the direction of having friends? Staying home doesn't solve having friends. Staying home doesn't solve increasing the friend group or social opportunities. So when we have that conversation later, and then you talk to them, how do you want me to help you move in the direction of what you care about? More friends, or having friends, or being a friend, whatever that they can express. So with a teenager, again, it's just like anybody else, devolving into the minutia of trying to make it not happen. Like, you are too fine, and you are too smart, and you do too have friends, and you do have, an arguing only increases their stuckness, right? Yeah.
Them wanting to prove you wrong.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and exactly. Does that help?
All right, we got another question in here. Is there support groups where kids meet, or could that create more habits of anxiety?
You know what? Support group would be really cool where they learn in the support group, they might be learning what anxiety is, how they experience it, how their bodies experience it. They would practice mindfulness activities. And that's a cool idea.
I know, I feel like we've talked about this in the
Yeah,
past.
we've dreamed about doing one too. It's just logistic getting
I
people
can
in.
tell you kind of what we offer at TCS. So right now I actually do have a support group for girls, middle school girls, dealing with anxiety. We're going through a
Perfect.
book by
So
Sissy Goff, actually, the book called Brave. It's kind of based off Worry Free
love
Girls, but it's
that.
her, and it's more tailored to them. So we do have that, but we also have, I mean, I'm teaching them on a regular basis the hand brain model. We're talking about anxiety, so we don't have like a support group for them at school, but we are learning tools. And I think I don't feel like it creates more anxiety. I feel like it helps them feel like, hey, I'm seen. I'm not the only person that's dealing with this.
In fact, every
And
human does, because every human who can talk
exactly,
does. Right.
exactly. So I feel like it actually helps them.
Yep.
Okay, we've got another one. I think this will be our last one. Okay, thank you for sharing about parent regulation being the first step. This is from Shayla. Any tips on
Nice.
parents being regulated when you already live a stressful life? I feel like a part of my issue is I feel resentment towards the one child that struggles with anxiety and not being able to predict when the anxious episode is going to come. It feels like it's at the most inopportune moments. Yeah, I obviously feel bad, right? It always is. I obviously feel bad for getting frustrated, but it just feels overwhelming in the high stress environments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the best things you can do is to begin, just like Elena's talked about doing this with her children, but for adults to practice 1 to 3 minutes of grounding every day, not in the moment. So you're practicing your grounding moments when everybody's gone to school already and the moment has passed.
In the car line when you're picking them up.
Right, exactly. So you're practicing grounding so that it becomes a tool for you. Without practicing it, it's not a tool. And when you rise up in the anxiety vortex, that's what it sounds like you get into. You don't have it because we haven't been practicing those mindfulness or getting present moments. So that would be the first thing is just begin practicing getting present. I would start to talk about gratitude too to yourself. Like, I'm grateful that they're able to tell me. I'm grateful that he or she talks to me. I'm grateful that I'm able to give support. When you start saying the things that you're grateful for about that experience, it'll change your perspective on the experience. And that's what sounds like we're looking for, is a shift in perspective so we can have more compassion and less frustration.
Okay, it looks like we do have one more question, and this will be our last one. And Shayla said that she wishes that there were groups for 10 and under. Shayla, I do offer anytime that you guys have a concern or that teachers have a concern, I'm more than happy to meet with your child one-on-one, and kind of get to the root of it and help them with some tools too. I'm always available for that. And hopefully I'll have some margin here in the near-ish future, not this year probably, but to be able to do some groups like that. I would love to do that. Okay. I've got Kimberly. Sorry, one last question. Is this fairly common in school? It just seems strange to see the anxiety in my own child and trying to pinpoint root causes.
Yeah, I think it's really common now. And I think it's common for all the things that we said, but probably the exposure to possibilities and options are endless now for them. Also, in some ways, it seems like expectations are high. And so kids are feeling those expectations. And I think, and then I think it's common, but I think we are in this age allowing for it, where in the past we dismissed it, put it down, ignored it. The problems occurred from it. We're in counseling and therapy as adults because of it. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys. And thank you for everyone who joined us. Loved having you guys. And thank you, Tara. Elena, I really
Thank you,
appreciate
Chris.
that. All right. Talk soon.
All right.